In the 6th episode, we witnessed how Byron, Caitlin, Joe, and Kyle were grilled by the Secretary of State, and they were told that henceforth the government would be overlooking their actions. Joe and her entire team were under a huge amount of stress, and they knew that aborting the mission and backing out now was not an option. Meanwhile, Cruz was feeling conflicted after she shared an intimate moment with Aaliyah, and she was no longer in a state to differentiate right from wrong. She had started questioning her own actions, and she didn't like the fact that she was deceiving somebody who had been so nice to her. So, let's find out if Cruz is able to get the better of her emotions and carry on with the mission or not. Joe, Caitlin, and Byron Westfield knew the kind of risk they were taking and how much was at stake. There were times when they felt that they were not prepared for the mission, but it was too late to take a step back. Byron Westfield was getting paranoid because he knew that they would be answerable to senators, and any mishap on their part wouldn't go unnoticed. He asked Joe if they could abort the mission, but she told him that Cruz was already on the move, and aborting the mission meant compromising with the Lioness. Westfield asked Caitlin to be on the ground with the entire team because he knew there was no scope for a mistake. Meanwhile, Joe was informed by Bobby that Cruz and Aaliyah were on the move and the team had no clue where they were headed. Joe asked her team to reach the base, and then she called Kyle and asked him to track Cruz and Aaliyah. Joe went back to her home after that, as she wanted to spend some time with her family before leaving for her mission. The mission was going to last for approximately 7 days, and Joe, until now, hadn't informed Kate about it. Kate had been finally discharged from the hospital, and she was happy to be able to come back home. Joe knew that Kate needed her to be around, and that is why she didn't know how to tell her that she was not going to be there for a week. Kate lost her cool when she got to know that Joe was leaving, and she asked Joe how she would do her daily chores without her. Joe told her that she had kept a nurse as of now who would help her with everything. Kate knew that her mother wouldn't have left her unless and until something very important came up. The girl very innocently asked her mother if it was a dangerous mission that she was going on, and Joe couldn't lie to her this time. Joe told her that the mission was dangerous and that there was a possibility that she wouldn't be able to make it out alive. Kate, at that moment, just wanted to hug her mother and not let her go. She felt helpless, and so did Joe, but they didn't have an option as of now. Joe was proud of her daughter's precocity, and she told Neil later that after the mission, she was going to opt for a desk job in her department. Joe loved being in the field, but leaving her daughter like this and not being able to be around when she needed her the most killed her from within. Neil knew about it, and that is why he asked Joe to think about it after the mission was over, but Joe was adamant, and she said that she had already made up her mind. With a heavy heart, Joe bid adieu to her family, not knowing if she would be able to see them again or not. We realized in the previous episode that Cruz was in that kind of mental space where she had started feeling that whatever she was doing was not ethically right. Moreover, Cruz and Aaliyah shared an intimate moment, and after that, everything changed. Cruz had fallen for Aaliyah, and after being in denial and resisting the feeling for quite some time, in the 7th episode, she finally accepted that fact and gave in. Cruz and Aaliyah, after shopping, went to an apartment and made love to each other. Cruz broke down after that, as her conscience felt burdened with the guilt of deceiving the only person who had actually loved her. Cruz messaged Joe and told her that she couldn't do this any longer, and Joe immediately flew to the location as she knew that if she didn't talk to Cruz now, she might end up spoiling the entire plan. Kyle was staying a couple of floors below Aaliyah's apartment, and Joe asked Cruz to come there herself so that they could have a conversation. Joe told Cruz that Aaliyah just wanted to experience freedom one last time before she got caged in Riyadh. Joe reminded Cruz that right now, she might be feeling that she was betraying her friend by getting her father killed, but in reality, she was actually doing a noble job and saving the lives of hundreds of people. She told Cruz that it was Amrohai's black money that funded the terrorist activities throughout the globe, and his death would deal a huge blow to each and every terrorist organization. Joe even gave Cruz videos of terrorist attacks that had been funded by Amrohai's money and asked her to watch them so that she realized that she was not doing something ethically wrong. During episode 7 ending, Cruz agreed to everything except the fact that Aaliyah was just playing around with her. Cruz had seen it in Aaliyah's eyes, and she knew that she was not faking it. The way Aaliyah held her, the way she pampered her, and the way she adored her had brought about a change in Cruz, and she told Joe that she was not trained to face such conflicts. Cruz had faced a lot of difficulties in her life, but this one was probably the most grueling and toughest of them all. Cruz, on the other hand, didn't know what she was doing or why she was consenting to go through such hell. To top it all, Cruz had fallen in love with Aaliyah, and she didn't know how she was going to execute her father when the time came. Joe had told Cruz time and again that Aaliyah was using her and that she just wanted to have some fun and take full advantage of her freedom before she got married, but deep down, Cruz knew that it was not the truth. Cruz trusted Aaliyah with all her heart. They had fallen in love with each other, and Cruz didn't know how to take her feelings out of the equation now. Cruz felt a certain way, and no matter what Joe told her, she was not going to believe that her intuitions were not telling her the truth. Joe had a conversation with Cruz when she felt that the latter was having second thoughts about going on the mission. Joe made her realize that people like Amrohai didn't deserve to live and that she was doing the right thing by killing him. But something inside Cruz told her that it was not right and that for betraying the trust of someone so badly, she would have to pay a huge cost, maybe not in the present but eventually in the future. So, let's find out if Cruz was able to execute the mission successfully or if her feelings got in the way of her duty and created a problem for the CIA and the United States of America. Cruz reached Mallorca, and she was immediately taken to Hassan, as apparently he wanted to have a conversation with her. Hassan asked Cruz why the other day she had left crying from Aaliyah's room, and he suspected that something might have happened between them. Cruz told her that Aaliyah was scared because everything in her life was going to change after the wedding, but Hassan didn't buy that. He knew that both ladies were up to something and that they were hiding things from him. Hassan became so agitated that he raised his hands on Cruz and told her that it was the last time she would meet Aaliyah, and after her wedding, she wouldn't get to see her ever again. Cruz never told Aaliyah that Hassan had confronted her, and she knew there was no point in doing so. Later, Aaliyah told Cruz that Hassan had an idea that they were having an affair and that once she married him, her entire life would change completely. Aaliyah was feeling apprehensive about her future married life, but she was helpless, and she knew that she wouldn't be able to do anything even if she wanted to. Cruz told her time and again to rebel and speak up for her own cause, but Aaliyah knew that it was not a possibility as she was well aware of the kind of men her father and fiancé were. She told Cruz that she didn't agree that her father was a terrorist, as the Western nations had labeled him to be, but obviously, she was too naive and too in her cocoon to understand what happened behind the curtain and the kind of complex and dirty politics nations indulged in. Cruz, while talking to Aaliyah, realized that Amrohai had already arrived at the wedding venue, and she geared up to take action and do whatever was in her hands to kill the man and bring this nightmare of a mission to an end. Aaliyah came to Cruz's bedroom once again in the night, and she made it very clear that she wanted to get close to her forbidden love. She had just this one night, and after that, she was never going to see Cruz. She wanted to take full advantage of the time she had on her hands, and she wanted the night to last for an eternity. But things didn't happen as she had planned, and Cruz decided that she didn't want to indulge her in any manner because, as it was, she was feeling very guilty. Cruz loved her, and she told her that, and that is why she didn't want to hurt her anymore. Cruz went down to the kitchen, and that's when, out of nowhere, Amrohai arrived there and had a conversation with her. Meanwhile, Hassan got to know that Cruz was a Marine, and he realized that his intuitions were actually true. He rushed to the kitchen, but before he could do anything, Cruz stabbed him, then turned to Amrohai and slit his throat in cold blood. Aaliyah came to the scene, and seeing her father and her fiancé lying in the pool of blood, she shouted at the top of her lungs. The guards came running to her, but till then Cruz had escaped. Joe and her team had already reached Fortaleza estate, and they started giving cover fire to Cruz. Cruz somehow managed to escape from there while dodging the bullets and leaving things to fate. Joe and her soldiers killed everyone who came their way, and they successfully escaped from there in their yacht. Amrohai was dead, and the CIA had accomplished their mission, but the battle was still not over. During Special Ops ending, Cruz lost her control and went into a fit of rage as she blamed Joe for turning her into a killing machine and making her hurt someone she loved with all her heart. Now she knew that she could never go back to Aaliyah even if she wanted to, and moreover, she knew how shattered it would have made her when she would have gotten to know that whatever time she had spent with Cruz was all a lie. The Secretary of State, Edwin Mullins, and his team had told Byron time and again to call off the mission because they realized that by killing Amrohai, they would be putting their relations with the entire Middle East in jeopardy. But it was way too late by the time they came to that realization. They asked Byron to call off the mission and ask his team to retreat, but Cruz had already reached the venue, and there was no way they could contact her and tell her to abort the mission. Nobody but the government was to be blamed for the indecisiveness, and as Byron said, they shouldn't have put Amrohai on the most wanted list if they didn't want him to be killed by the CIA. Nonetheless, the damage had been done, and Cruz told Joe that she was not going to be a part of this system as it had done nothing but wreck her from within. She had lost a lot in the process, and in the end, she came to know that it all amounted to nothing. The bureaucratic procedures were a mess, and the leaders should have been more in sync and reached a conclusion prior to giving the green light to the mission. Probably in the future, Russia and China would both get involved in the issue, as Amrohai used to deal with them, too. The oil prices were affected, and now the field was open for others to take advantage of the situation. If there will be a special ops, Lioness Season 2, we will get to witness the repercussions of what had happened in Majorca, and surely the CIA had triggered a chain reaction that was going to face a lot of problems for them in the times to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed the episodes of Special Ops Lioness. We will meet in the next video.